Hi, my name's Liz and I'm an artist and educator here at Maitland Regional Art Gallery. And today I'm going to be taking you through an art making workshop inspired by this work that I have here. This work is called Mini Snow Mountain Kosciusko, and it's done by a local artist called Anne-Maree Hunter, and it's part of our Maitland Regional Art Gallery collection. As you can see, it's very tiny and it's part of a series of works that she has created called the Precious series. And they're a series of landscapes in these tiny found object ring boxes. And they're made out of paper, pulp, and painted with paint. And I find them really curious objects because it's like she's opening up these tiny worlds. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about this work. And remember that there are no right or wrong answers, and I encourage you to come up with the most creative responses that you can. You can see that the artist has had fun taking something that is on a huge scale, like a mountain, and making it really tiny by putting it in a jewellery box. Can you think of something else that's of a large scale that might work if you converted it to a small scale such as this? It might be a large animal, a large tree. What does this artwork make you think of? And can you describe it in 1 or 2 words? Have a think about what it might actually feel like to be in this artwork. Perhaps sitting on top of the mountain? Have you ever sat on top of the mountain before? What do you think the view would be like from the top? What can you see from where you're sitting? There is an element of curiosity in this work, like it's opening up a portal to a tiny world. Who do you think might live in a tiny world like this? And do you like the artwork? Have a think about why, or think about why not. So now that we've had a really good look at the artwork, I'm going to take you through an art making workshop to make your very own paper pulp mountain or any other landscape that you'd like. What you're going to need is a nice clear space that you are able to make a bit of a mess. It's not too messy, but you're going to need newspaper, PVA or wood glue, a fork, some paintbrushes, some white paint, and also whatever colours that you want to use on your mountain. So I'm going to make green for mine. I've got some textures for detail, but they're not necessary if you don't want to use them. And then really important, I've got just a Tupperware container or a takeaway container, and then a Tupperware container or takeaway container lid, and some warm water. This is a 2-stage workshop, so you might like to make your mountain on one day, and then after it's dry, which can take from an hour up to maybe 4 hours, you can paint it the next day if you'd like. So first things first, you're going to take your Tupperware container and we're going to make a glue and water mixture. So what I'm going to do is just pour maybe 2 tablespoons of warm water into my container. And then taking my PVA glue and making a 2-to-1 ratio. So a little bit more glue than water. Beautiful. And then just using my fork, I'm going to give that a bit of a mix. So you want to mix it in so that all of the glue kind of dissolves into the water. And I'm just going to set that to the side. And then we're going to grab our newspaper and just start ripping the newspaper into shreds. And then as you go, you can just place it into your glue mixture there. And we want to make about a cup and a half of newspaper shreds. So I'll just put that newspaper to the side, and then using our fork, just kind of working our paste mixture into the newspaper. Your mixture should look a little bit like this. The fork's really great because it shreds the paper a little bit more. So it looks really pulpy and there's not too much liquid. So either put your gloves on or use your hands. I'm just going to scoop it up and I'm just going to squeeze out any excess liquid that I've got. And then popping it onto my takeaway container lid and using my hands to kind of form it into a mountain shape. And this is where you can get creative. So you don't have to make a mountain. You could make a valley, a gorge, a wave, whatever you like. I'm going to smooth some bits, put some indentations in others. And then I'm pretty happy with that. So let's get any excess off my fingers. And then I'll put that aside to dry. So I think it's probably best to let this one dry overnight. And then I'll look forward to painting it tomorrow. My paper pulp mountain is dry and it's looking a little bit grey. So I'm going to add some colour. This is where the white paint comes in. So just a really quick coat of white paint. And I'm thinking that my mountain is going to be nice and luscious and green. Having a think about maybe, I don't know, a mountain that you've visited or one that you'd like to go and visit. My favourite mountain that I visited was in Tasmania called Mount Eliza. As I'm using acrylic paint, which is the type of paint that I recommend that you use as well, it only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to dry. So once you've done your white coat of paint, you can set it aside, maybe make a cup of tea, and come back in 10 minutes and it should have dried, and that's when you can start adding your colour. So while I'm waiting for my mountain to dry a little bit more, I'm just going to mix a green. So I've got my blue paint and my yellow paint. And I'm just going to mix it here on the lid of my container. And then just start to paint, add it onto my mountain. I'm going to make sure that there are some darker bits, some lighter bits. Just kind of dabbing it on, give it a little bit of depth. I might leave some white at the top so it looks like there's some snow. And I've left some white patches down the sides as well. A bit of snowfall down lower. You don't have to be too precious with the paint either. I think the rougher it is, it looks like more texture on your mountain. There we go. Just pop them in my water. And then you can just set that aside to dry. And here's one I prepared earlier that has dried. So what I've done is I've actually used some of the textures here, and I picked a brown and just coloured in some rock formations on it. Came back and added a little bit of blue to my snow. It's your mountain though, so you get to decide what it looks like. And it's an activity that you can come back to and revisit and perhaps make your own mountain range, create a few mountains. Maybe you could explore making a different type of landscape. If you did want to put it in a jewelry box, that also could be really nice. Once you've finished your mini mountain, you might like to have a think about the following questions. And again, remember there are no right or wrong answers. It's just nice to reflect on the art making process and the art that you've made. So first of all, what name are you going to give your mountain? I'm going to call mine Mount Enormous because it's so small. And does your mountain belong in a particular country? Does it look like it's from a particular mountain range? Perhaps you were remodeling a mountain that you have visited in the past or that you're going to in the future. If you created this work again, would you make another mountain or would you attempt a different type of landscape? I hope you enjoyed this art making workshop with me and enjoyed having a close look at Mini Snow Mountain Kosciusko by Anne-Maree Hunter. Remembering that this video and the accompanying worksheet is available to use anytime.